Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name is Kathy. As we await the release of multiple motions in Limine in Idaho versus Kohberger that was filed back on the 24th of February 2025, we note that on the docket there are 4 earlier motions in Limine filed by the state that are on the public docket and are available for you to read. And one of the most hotly contested issues in this case has to do with the alibi defense, and that is the topic of one of the motions in Limine dated the 21st. This was filed by William Thompson, who was the prosecuting attorney for the state of Idaho. And what it appears that Mr. Thompson is saying here is that Mr. Kohberger must take the stand if he wants to continue on with this alibi defense, because he has insufficiently provided information, as he is required to do under Section 19-519 of the Idaho statutes governing what must be produced when a party voluntarily comes forward and seeks to introduce at trial evidence of an alibi defense. Now, it always bears mentioning that the burden of proof at all times is squarely on the shoulders of the prosecution. The prosecution is going to be required at the forthcoming trial of this matter to prove to the jury beyond any reasonable doubt that Mr. Kohberger committed these horrible crimes that he is charged with, and that he is constitutionally considered to be innocent at every stage of the proceedings until or unless he either pleads guilty or is adjudicated guilty by that future jury. It is not enough for the jury to think that Mr. Kohberger created these atrocious crimes. It's not enough for them to have a gut feeling to believe. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. That is an extraordinarily high standard that the prosecution and the prosecution only bears. Mr. Kohberger is not required to prove that he is not guilty, or not required to prove his innocence. That is what our legal standard in this country requires. An alibi defense can be a very powerful tool in helping to raise reasonable doubt when it is employed properly. And what it appears, based on our opinions that we give under the First Amendment, is that the prosecution is saying, while Mr. Kohberger did raise an alibi defense, what he's provided is insufficient under the statute. And we're not attorneys in Idaho, not giving legal advice, just reading what it appears the prosecution is saying here and reading the statute. Statute 19-519 clearly and unambiguously states that when a defendant raises intent to introduce an alibi defense, that they are required to produce the names and the addresses of witnesses. And this is what it appears the state is concerned about, that the names and addresses of corroborating witnesses who could testify in a trial that Mr. Kohberger could not have committed these horrible crimes because he was elsewhere. He was not at 1122 King Road between the hours of approximately 4 and 4:25 a.m., which is when the prosecution states these horrible crimes occurred. If you would like to read the statute, if you would like to read this filing, please follow the links that I have provided in the description to this podcast episode. And as always, I want to thank you for joining us here today.